A river of souls, that's how sculptors from Northern Ireland, Brendan Jamison and his partner Mark Revels, described their installation called Waterfall. It took them nearly a month to create the 92-kilogram honeycomb structure with nearly 35,000 pieces of paper scrolls. It serves both as a memorial to the more than 10,000 people killed in eastern Ukraine since 2014 and as a symbol of hope. The two artists say they feel a connection to Ukraine.
We chatted to a lot of the local people, and we really felt an empathy, because we have come from a country which itself endured a 30-year conflict between two very different identities, an Irish identity and a British identity in the north of Ireland, which is kind of divided between those two communities. So we could relate to some of the issues here in Ukraine, certainly with the annexation of Crimea by the Russian Federation, and then with the separatists then being backed by Russia with the invasion in the east. So it was something that we felt our hearts kind of really reached out to the people of Ukraine.
Some of those at the art show in Kyiv's Mistetsky Arsenal said the 6-meter sculptures seemed to radiate warmth, the honeycomb effect also representing the united community which built it. The artwork's meaning wasn't lost in even some of the youngest gallery attendees.
We need to remember that all people who die for it to live, for us to live.
Brendan Jamison is known for his sugar cube scale models, which have been exhibited around the world. Some were even sold at the auction house Sotheby's. For his latest masterpiece, the use of paper was particularly important.
The paper itself makes reference to the world media, which have, for the most part, kind of ignored and left behind this conflict. It's a huge humanitarian crisis.
Both Brendan and Mark grew up in a deeply divided country.
My mother and father are what we would describe in the north of Ireland, which is a very deeply divided society, as a mixed religion family. So my mother is Catholic, which would be affiliated more with the south of Ireland, and my father's a Protestant, which is more affiliated with England and unionism. So when they got together, that would have been in the late 60s, early 70s, they got a lot of problems from both sides of the communities. So in actual fact, during the time I was born, 1978, my mother and father had just moved to England to get away from the troubled area, or the Troubles as we call it in the north of Ireland.
Several thousand people died between the late 1960s and 1990s during the Troubles and a peace process in Northern Ireland. Both artists say they can relate to Ukrainians who live through war and violence.
We can completely relate to that, just how afraid people are actually here, because a lot of people will have loved ones that are off in the military on the front line. So we can completely empathise with that kind of pain and worry that not just the older generation, not just the mothers who are worried about their sons and daughters, but also the way that affects people psychologically from a young age, who are actually worrying about their brothers or their parents, that they might actually get killed on that day, and when they walk out the door in the morning, it could be the last time they see them, because that's the world we grew up in.
Peace generally returned to Northern Ireland in 1998. Meanwhile, in Ukraine, a long-term ceasefire has yet to be realized. This sculpture is a reminder that striving for peace is vital for the sake of the next generations. For UATV, this is Tamara Rosevan and Igor Korkodum in Kyiv.